Hey YouTube, so today I'm here with a swatch and tell plus review of the Kat Von D Monarch palette. Now I bought both the Monarch and Chrysalis palettes probably about a week or two ago. I don't remember, it's been a very busy week with moving and all. And I decided to do the palette parade challenge that I'm doing on Beauty Talk with the Monarch palette this week, and it was the most requested that I did between Beauty Talk and Beautylish. So I'm like, let's just go for it. So the Monarch palette is one of the two new palettes from Kat Von D, and I've never had a Kat Von D eyeshadow palette before, so these two were my first. I've actually never had anything Kat Von D before. And the Monarch palette was described as a warm toned palette. And what makes me a little bit happy about this is a lot of eyeshadow palettes that get released, they're either warm toned, cool toned, and I've got those seldom few that are kind of sort of in between. And what I like that Kat Von D did was she released a warm toned palette and a cooler toned palette. So if you're warm toned, you've got something complete of stuff you can use. If you're cool toned, you've got something complete of stuff you can use. And if you're neutral like me, or at least I think I'm neutral, I've been told I'm neutral, I'm assuming I'm neutral based off of vein color, then you can go for both. But so yeah, this is the amazing, gorgeous, I mean, look at the box. The box itself is, I love the boxes for both of these palettes. I think the packaging is so pretty. So on the front you've got this big old butterfly with skulls, and on the back you've got your butterfly wings and your palette descriptions, or not your palette descriptions, your palette colors. So, and on the back it says, keep your look ever changing, highlight as 3 textural bases and accentuate with 9 transformative colors. Now, as far as my actual feelings on the palette goes, oh, let me open it up so you can see it. Oh, mirror colors. Now, as far as my actual feelings on the palette goes, looking at it online, I was a little on it because I feel like it looks like every neutral palette out there. The only thing that really drew me to it was this orange right here. That was it. And having used it for this past week, my feelings were confirmed on that. I feel like this palette is very similar to every other neutral palette that I have, with the exception of this orange right here. Because, and actually let me pull them out because my makeup drawer is right there. With my now, I don't own a lot of neutral palettes because I'm more of a colorful person, but I've got at least I've got 3 neutral palettes, 3 more neutral palettes, and that would be, I've got 3 more neutral palettes aside from the Monarch palette. That is the Lorac Pro palette, the Coastal Scents Warm palette, and the Too Faced Chocolate Bar palette. And I honestly feel like, oh, that smells so good. I honestly feel like all of these are somewhere in these 3, especially the Lorac Pro palette. Like, holding these up side by side, they look pretty similar. And it was a little disappointing, honestly, because matte black, your dark brown, your taupey shade, I guess is what that would be, your light brown, matte color, your weird I don't know, this looks silver to me, but it doesn't apply, like, I don't know what's weird, but I'll get to the color descriptions in a minute. But, so yeah, I was a little underwhelmed by this palette overall. Like, the look that I did today is actually the favorite look that I've done so far with the challenge this week. And the sad thing about it is, or not sad, but I guess unfortunate would be, I could easily recreate this with any of the other palettes that I have, because all I used was a gold. I've got a gold in here. I used this dark brown. I used this black. I've got a dark brown and a black right here. And I used a purple, and the purple's not even in this palette. The purple's in this palette. I used this one just as to do something different in my crease transition area. So honestly, this isn't probably going to go back to Sephora. This is going to go back to Sephora because I feel like there's no point in me keeping it. It's a pretty box and all, but I can use that for something else. Or I can use the money for something else. So that's just my honest opinion on it. I mean, the colors are pretty. They're very well pigmented. The only color that I had a bit of problems with and had some fallout with was this gold right here. But other than that, everything was just kind of eh. Alright, so what I'm going to do is, opposed to giving a long drawn out review of each shade, because everything applied nicely, everything was pretty pigmented. The mattes were my favorite. Like, if she has an all matte palette, I'll probably go out and buy that all matte palette because the mattes in this were wonderfully, wonderfully pigmented. But all of these shimmer shades went on well. The only one I had fallout problems with, I think, was the gold right here. Other than that though, everything was pretty good. So I'm not gonna bother giving individual descriptions of how each shade applied because everything went well. Instead, I'm just going to read off the color name, show you the picture, wait a couple seconds, and move on to the next one. So the way this video goes by a little quicker. And I'm reading this off my phone, so I'm gonna try to multitask here. So first up is the Entomology, which is described as a matte cream shade, so right here. Next is Telepathy, which is a pearl gold. Next up is Tiny Death, which is a glitter cream. And if I am moving too fast for you guys, these are all on my blog if you want to see how they look individually, in case I'm going through a bit too quick for you guys. So the link's in the description box, that'll go directly to the palette review. So next up, Wrath, a deep pearl orange. And like I said, this was the color that originally drew me to the palette. That I'm gonna see if I can find a dupe for it instead of just keeping it. Next, Papillino, and I don't know if I'm saying that right, which is a pearl chocolate. Moving on, there's Summerfly, which is a glitter gold, and I have it on my lid up here. I don't know how well you can see it, but it's there. Next is Killing Jar, which was actually my second favorite color in the palette. Or maybe my first, because it didn't have quite as much fallout as the Papillino. No, Summerfly? Yeah, Summerfly did. So anyway, Killing Jar is a pearl copper. Next is Delaney, which is a pearl silver. And Delaney's a little weird to me because when I think of silver, and I know I said I wasn't going to do individual descriptions, so excuse me, but I'm going to do it anyway. When I think of silver, I think of, there's nothing in this palette that would break. On my lid, this doesn't look as silver as I thought it would. It's like a gold silver mix to me. And there's a similar color like that in the Chrysalis palette. Like looking at it, I thought it was gold. When I applied it on my eyes, it was more like a gold silver mix. So it was weird. I like it, but it's weird. Next is the Vanish, which is a matte taupe color. Going on is Disintegration, which is a pearl brown. After that is Shadow Box, which is a matte chocolate. And there's Deadhead, which is a matte black. So I'm gonna go ahead and close that up. Now, like I said, this palette for me is going back because I feel like it's a bit too similar to everything else that I own. But if you don't have if you don't have many neutral eyeshadow palettes, or neutral eyeshadow palettes are your thing, go for it. If you're looking for a neutral eyeshadow palette and you're starting out with makeup, I think this is okay. My Lorac, whatever, Pro palette is still my #1 recommendation because you've got all the mattes. You've got 8 mattes and 8 shimmers. This palette only has 3 mattes, and one of them is entirely too light for me to do much of anything with. Like, I can do stuff with it, but just not all over the lid, not in here. Tan powdered donut is what it reminded me of. Now, so yeah, neutrals are your thing, go for it. If you have a bunch of neutral palettes, I would skip this palette. Go on to something else because, again, the colors are just a little too similar for me to keep that I have with other stuff. So I guess I wish, if anything, that, you know, I think warm colors are more than just browns and, I don't know, 'cause the palette is very browny to me, and I feel like there's so many other warm colors on the color scale that could have been used. Like, what about, because when I think of yellow, I'm not yellow, butterflies, like yellows and oranges and golds come up to me, and I would have loved to see a palette with maybe like a bright yellow shade or a less fallouty gold shade, because this gold, I had stuff over here when I applied it, or a less fallouty gold shade, or different tones of orange, which you don't see much in palettes anyway. Like, I'm trying to think. The only oranges that I have on palettes are in one Sugarpill palette, the Love Point, no, Burning, it's something, it's a name. It's one of those. The Too Faced a la Mode palette has an orange in it. And do I have anything else over there with an orange? I don't think so. So that would have been interesting because there aren't too many palettes with oranges in them. And it would have been really pretty. So just something that wasn't so typical, I guess. Because, like I said, the warm color range is so much more than browns and a gold and a kind of sort of pink. Because I know it said coppery, but it's pink to me. But so yeah, that's just my take on this palette. If you like it, go get it. If not, leave it alone. That's all I gotta say about it. Now I will go ahead and upload I'll do a review on the Chrysalis palette possibly next week. I don't know, it's my free week for the Palette Parade Challenge, and I'd rather give a review after I've used the palette for a full week. So it might not be until week after next, so the second week in May that review gets uploaded, and these are permanent, so I'm not too worried about, you know, it going out of stock or anything. So yeah, but that's it. So Chrysalis palette, it's coming up. And then my next video, I don't know what it's gonna be. I just still have a couple videos I need to upload, so probably one of those. But anyway, until next time, later YouTube.